My drinking, like your drinking, got out of hand. Got to the point where I no longer decided when I was going to drink. The compulsion that is part of my disease and your disease determined when I was going to drink, whether it was an opportune time or an inopportune time, and as God knows and as you know, it most frequently was at the most inopportune time. I can look back to time after time after time in my life when it was of the utmost importance to me and to those that I loved that I stay sober, that I stay away from the drink. And those were the times that, so help me God, try as I would, I couldn't stay away from the drink. Well, this pattern developed and continued over the next 22 years until it left me on Seattle Skid Row, stripped of my profession, my wife and children gone, my family, my friends, sick mentally, morally, physically, and with hardly enough brains left to wonder why it had happened. Now that's about all of the story of my life that up to that point that is of any interest to any other alcoholic. And that not because it was me, but because certainly it must reflect a similar pattern in the lives of each one of you here who are alcoholics. Each one of you can look back over your span of life, and you can recall how you started out drinking. We drank for fun. We drank because we enjoyed it. We drank because we enjoyed the conviviality and the friendship, the singing, the hoorah that went along with a social drink. And you can recall, as I can recall, that very gradually but very certainly this thing grew and developed and grew on us until liquor took over our lives. Well, and then came AA. And of course I'd love to tell everybody. I'd love to tell the whole cockeyed world just what happened to me in AA. But that wouldn't be particularly important to go into that detail by detail. What is important about my experience of AA to any other alcoholic? Well, I think, and again it can be briefly put, I think this. I think it's important to the newcomer, to the old-timer, whether he's having trouble or whether he isn't, that my life having gone out of control and liquor having become my master, when I approached AA, I had every fear, every misgiving, every worry, every wonder that you had when you approached it, or that you have now as you are approaching it. How could I help but wonder? I remember the first night that I left to go to a meeting over in Tacoma. And I can remember my thoughts on the way down, and I kept saying to myself, you sucker, haven't you tried everything? You had a loving family. They did everything in the world to help you, and they loved you. There isn't anything in this world that they wouldn't have done or didn't try to do. You've tried the church. You've tried their jag farms, their jails, their hospitals, medicine, and every one of them failed. What right do you have think? Well, think hell, I didn't think. But what right did I have to hope even that this bunch of ex-drunks who dared call themselves Alcoholics Anonymous could help me where everyone else and everything else had failed. Well, I didn't have any right. I didn't have any right until after I got inside those doors, and for the first time I met fellow alcoholics. For the first time in God knows how many years, I had a place where I belonged. These were my people. They didn't sympathize with me, they understood me. They didn't patronize me, they helped me. They didn't call me a fool, they told me I was sick. Now, I'd been told that I was a coward and a weakling and a fool and a moral degenerate for so long that I believed them. How could I believe anything else? But these people said, no, Larry. You aren't any of those things. But you are sick. And I'll never forget the first faint stirrings of a hope that maybe they weren't lying to me. That maybe I wasn't just a no-good, a fool and a coward. Maybe I hadn't lost. Maybe I'd just been delayed along the way. Well, I grasped onto that hope that that was what was wrong with me, with what little strength and vigor and hope and faith I had left in me. Because I knew that sick people do get well. And these people told me that they had a way of helping the sick alcoholic get well. By the grace of God alone, I'm sure. I finally found the courage to believe them, to have the faith that they were telling me the truth. Well, I, as you in those early days, I had nothing in my own experience upon which I could grasp, that I could hang on to, that would give me any hope. As far back as I could remember, as far back as I could look. So far as liquor is concerned, I had been a complete failure. Oh, I'd been sober hundreds of times. I had every reason in the world to want to stay sober. I had wanted to stay sober. For example, when I found out that I was losing my family, I didn't want to lose my family. And I tried desperately hard at that time to prevent losing them, but I was too far gone. So as far back as I could look and all that I could remember, sure, I could remember the times I had been sober, but I couldn't forget that something always happened. And I wound up drunk. What right did I have to believe that this time it was going to be any different? Well, as far as my own experience was concerned, I didn't have any. The only right I had to believe was that I could look at these people that I had talked to and that I knew. That's something you don't kid an alcoholic about. I knew these people had gone through the same things that I had gone through. And I knew that now they were well on their way back. I looked at them and I knew that they were happy. You don't simulate happiness. They were happy, they were contented, they were satisfied. They enjoyed being sober. And so from their experience, I lived like a parasite for those first few days and first few weeks and first few months. I looked at them, and I hung on to their success, and I breathed and lived it, because I had none of my own to breathe and live. But suddenly, or finally rather, I discovered that I did have some experience of my own. A few weeks, a few months, And then, yes, suddenly the realization came to me. The confidence that I need never take another drink.